Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello, welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm Mike.
I'm PJ.
And today, folks, we have a triple header. We're reviewing 3 films. We're doing the new Supergirl. We're doing a Netflix animated film that's called SWAT. And lastly, Masters of the Universe. So I'm really excited, folks. And if we have some new listeners or some regulars, you'll probably say, well, what makes these guys qualified to review films? Well, believe it or not, PJ and I not only won the best screenplay at a film festival last year, but we're actually finally in post-production of our own film. So that comes out later hopefully this fall.
It's up on festivals because we'll be touring the festival circuit.
Yep. And we're putting our money where our mouth is. So that's
right.
So, but we're excited. But folks, PJ saw 2 out of the 3 films. He saw Masters of the Universe and he saw Supergirl. I'm going to talk about SWAT, but we're going to start things off with Supergirl. So PJ.
Yes.
This movie, just like Superman, has mixed reviews. Didn't really do well in the box office.
It did not do well in the box office.
At all. So
I actually saw Supergirl twice so far.
What? Whoa.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
PJ really wanted to make sure that he
wanted to make sure I understood this movie. Yeah.
Right.
Well, let me just give you the backstory. So obviously with the comic book shop, I always have to see these movies early because if I don't, I get spoiled and I don't want to get spoiled.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want to go into these movies. I watch the trailers. I know some people won't even watch a trailer. I don't mind watching a trailer, but I don't want to know everything going in. I don't want to get spoiled if I can avoid it. So whenever a superhero comic book type of movie comes out, I try and go right away. So I went to see it the day it came out and then...
Was it packed theater? I'm sorry. Was it packed?
No, when I go on a Thursday, it's not usually packed because it's like Thursday, like 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So it's usually like not like those early ones aren't usually packed out. So I did that. And then like 2 days later, I think it was like a Saturday or maybe a Sunday, whatever it was. My dad wanted to see it. My mother said she didn't want to see Supergirl. She wasn't going to go. My dad wanted to see it in the theater. So I went back with my dad. So I saw it a second time. It was busier the second time. There were people in the theater, but not packed. So that's why I saw it twice. So I have it. I have the whole plot memorized here because I've seen it so many times. Right. I'll do a quick run. Here's what I'll do. I'll do a quick rundown of what the plot is. I'll talk about the backstory because it is based on a comic book, and then I'll get into my feelings on it. There's going to be some spoilers, but I think all the spoilers are out in the world anyway at this point.
I think we should full spoilers, PJ, and okay. I'm okay with that.
So are you familiar with where the story came from?
I know it's from the comic books that came out not too long ago. It's not like it's not like from like the 80s or the 70s.
No. It's relatively
recent.
recent. All things considered. It was written by Tom King, who is not my favorite comic book author. I tend to not like his comic books. Tom King is like an ex-CIA agent kind of guy, and I'm not here to judge anybody, but he makes a lot of comments about things that I don't typically agree with the things that he's done and things he brags about having done in that field and everything else. And I find his comic books to be very wordy and dragged out, and I don't particularly like the message that he always tries to put into his book. He's just not my favorite. I'll leave it at that. However, Woman of Tomorrow turned out when that comic book came out to be a really good comic book. And I'm trying to get you the date that it came out just so, because like you said, it is fairly recent. Let's see if I can find out when it came out. It's 2020s maybe. Or maybe a little before 2020. We're talking probably within the last 10 years. I think it was like 2022. I think it was after COVID.
That's recent, man.
This is very recent. Yeah. So that's where the story for this comes from. And it wound up being a very good comic book that I didn't anticipate liking because, like I said, I don't like the writer. Yeah. So going into the movie, I had some expectations of, I hope it lives up to this comic book, which is actually very good. Because if someone you don't like makes something that you really appreciate, then you're like, wow, that was a good story. So that's where the back of this comes from. Now, we meet Supergirl in the end of the Superman movie. We have our difference of opinions on that Superman movie, but it does end off with Supergirl. Right. And you kind of say, I think everyone who saw that was like, why is she like this? Why is she drunk? Why is she bumbling? Why is she doing all these things? Right. And that's because it's leading into this Woman of Tomorrow that a lot of people may not have been familiar with. The basic overall plot here is Supergirl comes from Krypton the same way Superman does. But when she leaves Krypton, she's a teenager. She's not an infant. Yeah. She grew up on this planet, right? Having a life, having a family, having friends, has to witness all these people that she knows and loves and cares about die, gets rocketed to a planet where the only person there is her cousin who she doesn't know, right? Because he's an infant, doesn't know doesn't know anything about him. And so it's kind of like a PTSD sort of thing. Like she lost everything that she's ever had. And now she's with a stranger who cares about her seemingly, but she doesn't know from a hole in the wall. And she has to rebuild her whole life after already having lost one. So she becomes a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And because they get their powers from the yellow sun, they can't get drunk. They can't self-medicate, right? To make themselves feel better. So she goes to these red sun planets to be able to drink and to be able to block out the memories and the pain. So that's why at the end of Superman, she's all drunk and hungover, because this is the things that she's doing. So this movie kind of follows up on that. When you first see her, it's her birthday and she's at a bar and she's getting drunk and everything else. So it picks up that thread and explains why she's like that at the end of Superman. So that's kind of the background here. You meet a character. Her name is Ruthie. Ruthie watches her family get slaughtered, right? Her father is a weapons maker. This race of aliens wants the weapons that he makes. So they go to this guy's house. He slaughters their family to try and take all the weapons. The girl Ruthie winds up not getting slaughtered. She escapes. And now she wants to get revenge. So now she's on her quest to get revenge, and she winds up at a bar. And at this bar is where Supergirl is getting drunk. And she's like, my name is Ruthie and I'm here to get revenge on Krem, whatever. I forget what his full title is or whatever. Yeah. But his name is Krem, and I will give you the last of my father's swords if you help me get my revenge. I'm just looking for a warrior. And then she starts she's a little kid. She's probably like a teenager or whatever. And they try to steal the sword from her or whatever. And then Supergirl's there drunk, and even though she's drunk and she's on a red sun planet with no powers, she's like, I can't let this little girl get taken advantage of. So she fights the guys who are like picking on her, gives her back her sword and leaves. Right. And now this girl's immediately like, this is the person that I need to be my warrior. I need to find Supergirl. So she finds Supergirl and introduces herself again. And is like, I need you to be my warrior. So Supergirl's like, no, that's not what I do. That's not what I do. I'm not your warrior. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. This girl's very persistent and keeps trying. And the bad guy, Krem, knows that this girl's looking for her at this point. And he winds up going to where Supergirl is in an attempt to kill this girl or whatever, winds up poisoning Crypto the Superdog.
Right.
Just direct from the comic book. Comic book so far. So now Supergirl has to get the antidote, which the alien keeps on him because they use this poison as like a torture device. So they have an antidote for it. So that's why she's now involved in hunting down the villain. She needs to save her dog. The girl wants to get revenge. So it becomes a bit of a team up.
Yeah.
And now we're racing through the cosmos here, racing through the galaxy, trying to find the bad guys. And as we're doing that, we're going into seedy bars because that's where these people hang out, trying to find them. Eventually, we meet Jason Momoa as Lobo. This is not a team-up movie. I actually really like what they did with Lobo. Lobo was a bounty hunter. You know the comic.
Oh, yeah.
But for the people listening who may not know, Lobo is just a bounty hunter. Right. That's what
he's
does.
Almost like immortal, right? Basically, right?
Yeah.
He can't die, right?
He's the Lazarnian. Yeah. And he's like immortal. He can't die. The thing in the comic books is like he's too bad to go to heaven, but hell doesn't want him. So he can't die. Like that's the whole shtick, right? But he's a bounty hunter. You pay him and he kills people. There is another.
I heard he's really just more of a cameo. Like if you eliminate,
he's not in it very much. If he has 20 minutes of screen time, it's a lot. I don't think it's even that much.
Yeah, I think
he's just kind of weaved in and out. He's also after one of.
Is he in the comic book, PJ? Is he in the?
No,
comic
he's not.
Okay, so he's there for just spice it up, blah blah blah. Okay,
exactly.
But if he wasn't in the film, it wouldn't impact the plot or anything, right?
If he was not in yes and no. It would not impact the plot.
Right.
It would impact the enjoyability of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's excellent in the film for the little bit that you see him.
And like Joe, and just a side note, I liked him as Aquaman too. Like those movies
as Aquaman either. I actually thought he was better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, and those movies aren't that bad. I mean, I think they're actually more of the fun ones. They're not perfect, clearly, but anyway. But I heard he definitely has the better look and all that stuff.
He looks just like the comic book character. He looks great. He's got and he has the personality for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't impact the film if he wasn't there, but it would make the film far less enjoyable if he wasn't there.
Sure,
the little bit that you see him, he's like, I would say this, not to put him on the level of Robert Downey Jr., but you know how Robert Downey Jr. is perfect casting for Iron Man?
Yeah.
Momoa is like perfect casting for Lobo. He when he's on the screen, he steals it, right? So he's after a different member of this alien race that Supergirl is after. So he's looking for them also, but not for the same reason. And they don't team up. Their paths just keep kind of crossing through as he's doing his mission. And you don't see him on his mission. You just see him show up here and there. And the way they weave him in is pretty seamless and pretty cool. But it's not a team up movie where you're like, oh, here comes Lobo to save the day. There's none of that. He's just doing his own thing and their paths keep crossing, which is a cool way to do it. It worked well for the film, but very small part. So now in the course of them hunting down these these bad guys, right? Supergirl and the girl Ruthie come across restaurant owners, and they're like, "Oh, we can maybe help you. Just, come with us back to our house where it's safer because everyone's looking for you, and we'll help you." And it turns out this is what you learn, that the bad guy Krem and his gang, they abduct women
I
and
heard
use
about
them
this.
as
Yeah.
they abduct women and
Was
use.
that in the comic book?
It is not. It is not.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
a big that's a big change.
yeah.
Uh,
Once I get through the plot, I will explain how this change to me impacts the movie, but I'll just go through it. Yeah, so you find out that they kidnap women because this is an all-male race, so they need to kidnap women and use them to
Right.
continue the race. And this family that you thought was helping Supergirl and Ruthie are using them because Krem's gonna give back their daughter in exchange for these two, because they had previously abducted their daughter, you learn. And he's like, "I won't kill and use your daughter. I'll give her back if you give me the two people I'm really looking for." And so it's a double cross, and now they have to fight and try and
Yeah,
survive,
yeah, yeah.
and there's a big space battle or whatever. And the bad guy gets away, and Supergirl's like, "I can't, you're slowing me down, Ruthie. I need to save my dog." And she's like, "Well, I need my revenge." And they have a fight and kind of go their own separate ways for a
Yeah,
little bit.
that's like, yep. Like your
Very
story
typical.
beats right. They break up and they make up and they save the day. Okay.
Exactly, right. So they find themselves now on the planet where the bad guy is, and they introduce this concept of a green sun that hurts Supergirl because the sun is green. I don't know where they came up with this. I thought it was dumb.
So it's not in the comic books or anything.
No, it's just a
Interesting.
green sun that's gonna kill her, and so now she's down and out, and she's dying on this planet, but Ruthie shows up and tries to help her through, and now you start to get a little backstory of Supergirl, like, when she's kind of explaining some of her history, and she's like, "Well, I didn't," she tells Ruthie she's Kryptonian, and
Right.
Ruthie is like, "But I thought all of Krypton died on whatever day it was," and she's like, "No, Krypton didn't die that day." She says something like, "The gods aren't that just," or something like that. So you find out her father, played by Bernard the Elf, Zor-El,
Right. Right.
Supergirl's father, doesn't follow the same beliefs as Jor-El. Remember in Superman, there was that whole thing about
Right.
how he's
Yeah.
gonna conquer and
Is it
everything?
like a drinkable Z thing? Yeah. Send him
Yeah.
there to.
Her Supergirl's father doesn't he believes that his brother is right and that the planet's gonna explode, but he doesn't believe that we should be sending people to conquer other worlds. Like, that's
Yeah.
not what he wants to do. He wants to save as much of Krypton as he can. He comes up with this device that kind of puts a bubble over Argo City, which is where Supergirl and Zor-El and everyone live. And when the planet explodes, they protect this one little city that's now floating in space. And so that's where Supergirl grows up, on the city of Argo, this floating city that was saved, but they wind up getting poisoned by the kryptonite slowly. And so they're all gonna die, and so now she's watching her family get sick, and she's watching her loved ones get sick, and, they have this conversation with her parents and Supergirl, and they're like, "Look, you don't have to be nice, but you have to be kind. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be tough, but you
Right.
have to be good. You
Mhm.
have to be good. That's the one thing we want from you. Be good." And they send her off, to go to Earth
Yeah.
or whatever, and she meets Superman. David Corn Sweat as Superman is
Right.
in the movie a couple of times, and he's trying to explain to her that he cares, and this is where I live now, and you can live here too, and
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole thing. And so now she's kind of you're learning more about Supergirl, about why she is the way she is. But I think they do this too late in the movie. Like,
Right.
if you tell me this earlier, I might care more about her being drunk in these bars and everything
Right.
else, because it is a very cool, like, backstory. It's a very heartfelt backstory, and Millie Alcock does a great job in Payne explaining it all.
Yeah.
Really, she does, but it just takes too late in the film, I think. But anyway, and then you see Superman give her the suit, the Supergirl suit, and he goes, "I know it's brightly colored, but this is just so people know that we're good." And ties back into what her
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
her parents say, "Oh, be good." So that's why she wears it, because she's trying to honor her parents or whatever. And then we're back on the planet where she's dying, and now Ruthie is caught, and there's a whole thing. And this planet has two suns. So when the yellow sun sets, the green sun rises, and
Oh,
she
okay.
dies. But then the green sun sets, and the yellow sun rises, and she's Supergirl again. So now there's a battle again, and they're fighting all the bad guys. Lobo comes back through, and he's fighting, and there's some cool fight
Right.
scenes, cool action scenes. Now we're about to get this big showdown, we think, between Supergirl and the bad guy. And someone's like, "No, but the wives," they call those women slaves the wives, "they have to be saved too." And it's like a hard cut. Now Supergirl's flying back in
Yeah.
to save these slaves, and then she saves them, and then she goes back, and then we fight the bad guy, and we beat the bad guy, and you think Ruthie's about to kill him, and she's like, "No, that's not gonna." The whole movie, Supergirl's telling this girl, Ruthie, "Don't murder this guy.
Right.
That's not gonna make you feel better. Now
Right.
you're still gonna have this pain in you, and you're gonna feel like you murdered
Right.
a guy. You can't do it." She convinces her not to kill the bad guy, and then Supergirl stabs the bad guy in the throat and kills him anyway. Yeah,
Maybe she
and
didn't want her
then
to have that guilt. Kind of like, yes, he wrote the
right.
petition. He doesn't want him to have,
Exactly,
for the
that's the
Tom
idea
Hanks.
of it, and I'm gonna get back to that in a minute too, the ending that ending. Then it cuts back to Metropolis, and Supergirl walks into Clark Kent's apartment, and he's like, "You're here. How was your birthday?" And they're
Yeah.
making small talk or whatever, and he goes, "I guess you're not gonna stick around or whatever. Probably have things to do." Kinda hurt that his cousin doesn't
Right.
wanna be around him, and she goes, "No, you know what? I think I'm gonna stick around this time." They save the dog, they get the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing, yeah. And she's
Okay.
like, I think I'm gonna stick around this time. I think I wanna stay home." And it's like a nice reunion, and it kinda sets up that, like, she's gonna be there with him in the city, which will tie into the next movie where Supergirl and Superman seem really gonna team up to fight Luthor and Brainiac, and the movie ends. It's pretty much the basic plot structure of the movie.
Right.
So, I'll pause there and see if you have anything you want me to go over before I give you my feelings and thoughts.
Yeah. So that was a nice synopsis, PJ. So as we know, this is the James Gunn universe. Now he didn't
It
direct
is.
this. Now,
He did not.
now
No.
it's got the gentleman's name is Craig Gillespie. And
So
let me just tell
yes.
you about this guy's resume. Okay, this is the movies that he's directed. So back in the day, basically started in 2007. So I never heard of Mr. Woodcock, but I did heard of Lars and the Real Girl. Okay.
That was a good movie. Yep.
Yeah. Then he had Fright Night. I never saw it, but I've heard of it.
It was decent. Not
Mil-
great, decent.
Yep, $1 Million Arm, The Finest Hours. Then he came out with probably his best film out of his whole catalog, I, Tanya. Awesome movie about Tanya
Yep,
Harding.
that was good.
Awesome movie. Then he came out with Cruella. Okay.
Which I liked a lot,
I
Cruella.
never
I actually
saw
thought
it.
that was a good movie.
Yeah. And then Dumb Money. That's the one we actually reviewed that film with our buddy
Yes, we
Brian.
did. Yeah.
Which was very good. That was a very good movie. And then
Yeah.
of course now Supergirl. So it's curious because I've heard other views online, and it's everyone keeps talking as if James Gunn himself directed it, but he didn't.
He did not.
But
He
it
did not.
sounds like he had a sounds like it might
Heavy
have been
hand.
breathing down this man's neck.
Yeah.
Because I heard between the needle drops and the look, the script, as we know, was the blueprint for the film you're going to make, right? So if it's kind of
Yeah.
tailored around maybe this James Gunn vibe, it's going to have that vibe, right? If you're following the blueprint. But I was just very curious because it seems like everyone keeps talking James Gunn, but I'm like, no one's talking about this guy Craig. I'm like, he has a very good resume. PJ, from what I'm hearing is, I'm not sure if you love the film, but this just seems it's unbearable. I think
It's not.
I think a lot of people are going overboard saying it's like the worst. I think it's kind of like Superman. I think it's just a mixed review. I think it's probably just an
Yeah.
film, But this man is a good director. So it just seems like, as it always comes down to, like Alfred Hitchcock said, the most important thing about movie is the script. So it sounds like the script is a bit clunky because you just said it. She tells this character Ruthie, revenge basically is it's an empty victory. It's like
Yep.
2 seconds later she impales this man. This villain.
Yeah.
So it's just she should really give him mercy. So
Here's
but
the problem.
just-
Now I'll get into some of the problems. I'll get into the positives and the negatives. Millie Alcock does a great job. No one, people are shitting on this girl.
I know.
Excuse me.
Being mean
But she
to
does a
her.
fine job as Supergirl. I mean, there's nothing that she does in this movie where I'm watching her acting where I'm like, man, she's the worst part of this. She's fine. The
Mhm.
girl who plays Ruthie is fine. The people are shitting on the villain. He's a hateable villain. Like, you don't like the guy. You don't want him to win. He's fine. No one Momoa is excellent in the film. He really is. The little bit that you see him. The
Mhm.
cast is all great. The parts of the movie that are based on the comic book work really, really well because it is the parts that they added.
That's the part I
Tank
don't
the whole
get.
thing.
Why? That's the thing I don't get. Because this James Gunn seemed like, when you compare it to Superman, who did pretty much everything, I'll say, by the comic book. Like,
Yeah, and he really
he took the strain of hair, all these other things. I think the only thing he might have added, I mean, I don't know if
was
it's
really
different.
really the parent stuff. The Krypton
Exactly,
stuff. That's
that was
really the
he
only
tried to-
liberties he took.
Exactly. So I don't know what to say. I guess they felt compelled, and I can understand now why people are making the Mad Max comparisons. Because
Yeah,
the Mad Max Fury Road, where they basically do the same thing, where they basically hold women hostage to
yeah, it is
know.
a little bit of that in there. Yeah,
So, and look, we know
I
that
think they-
we know movies take influence from other things. Like I'm sure just say this comic book came out in 2022. John Wick came out like 2015, 2014,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. So I'm sure
and
that
all of a
had
sudden
an
we have to
impact.
say we're mad about our dog. We got to get revenge on it. It's
So,
very. It
I don't
borrows,
really get
for
hung up
sure.
on that kind of stuff, but things get influenced. But I'm very surprised, like you said, PJ, that they would take
Add
these,
this extra stuff because the
Or you
extra
probably
stuff is the part that drags it down.
and you
Because you're
probably
like,
didn't
it's so
even
out
need
of
it.
place.
You didn't, and Ruthie's in the comic book too, right? The girl Ruthie.
Yes, Ruthie's in the comic
Okay.
book too.
Because
yeah.
usually I know you don't like kids in
I usually
films.
don't. She did a pretty good job, and she's not
Mhm.
like a toddler. I mean, she's
Yeah.
you know, I don't usually like kids in movies, and I didn't bump into that in this because she doesn't come across as young as
Right.
that.
I'm just kind of baffled. They talk about why, like, Supergirl's not gonna need a sword. Why would she need a sword? You know what I mean? It's just
So here's why. Now I will tell you.
they don't tell you in
The
the movie, or the movie doesn't make a
Well, the sword is the weapons that girl's family made, and she was
right.
using it to get revenge.
Okay.
She wanted to kill the guy with her family sword to get revenge, and then Supergirl winds up using it and stabs her in the throat anyway. The problem is that the person who adapted, I don't know if it was the director or if there was a different writer, didn't understand the comic book. So the comic book has a time jump, right? They don't kill the bad guy, Krem. There's a time they put him in the Phantom Zone prison. There's like this time jump, and over years, the bad guy kind of learns the error of his ways, and he realizes he was wrong. And they go back to see him in the prison in the future, and he's apologetic, and he's like, "I know now that what I did was wrong, and I'm sorry for that. Not that it matters to you now. I already killed your family, but
Yeah.
that happens sometimes in prison. People do have that
Yeah,
change,
yeah, yeah.
right?" And the girl Ruthie takes like she's old now because it takes place way in the future, this scene, and kind of hits him with like a cane or whatever, and just bops him on the head, and and then leaves, and he kind of falls down, like she knocks him out. And she doesn't kill him or anything because she's learned too.
Yeah.
She's also had this growth and understands that this revenge was never the right answer. The person who adapted the script, this has now come out over the last couple of days, misunderstood the ending and thought that in the future, Ruthie killed the guy anyway and had no character growth.
Right.
So she
Okay.
completely misunderstood, or whoever adapted the film, completely misunderstood the ending and didn't want to have Ruthie kill the guy. So she had Supergirl kill him. But this character never dies in the book. She just completely misunderstood the whole comic book, whoever wrote the script, and added this ending that kind of takes you out of it because Supergirl wouldn't stab someone in the throat. She's Supergirl. So
Maybe she liked the Zack Snyder film.
yeah, maybe. Yeah,
He's
exactly.
snapping people's necks, stabbing people in the
So
neck.
this is a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's completely fine. There are parts that are very entertaining. There are parts that are a little bit of a drag. Like I said, parts that are a drag are the stuff that didn't come from the comic book. They added this, I guess. It's only an hour and 45 minutes, the movie. It's very short. And I'm guessing they felt like if we don't add more stuff, this movie is an hour and 20 minutes and it's just a girl trying to save her dog, and I guess they felt like that wasn't enough of a grab to get people like
Right.
into it or whatever. So they add this extra bulk, and it just feels bloated. Like you don't want any of that stuff. Overall, the movie is good. It's watchable. It's entertaining. The action is good. The soundtrack is fine. James Gunn knows how to put a song in a movie. He did some of the editing on this, I believe I read. So I actually think you might find more to enjoy in this movie than you did in the Superman movie, knowing how you felt about the Superman movie. I think you might find more things you like about this, except for that stuff where you're gonna be like, oh my God, eye roll because of like all
Right.
the extra shit. I think if they stuck to just that main story, you would actually like this movie better. The other issue with this movie is it feels like a Star Wars movie more than it feels like a Supergirl movie because it takes place in space and they're going into bars with aliens that look like they're straight out of the cantina. And
Right.
it's after a while you're like, am I watching Supergirl? Am I watching Star
Well, I
Wars?
heard she doesn't really put the outfit on until really
Till the
the
very
end.
end. Yeah, she has to like earn it.
Yeah, I get it.
Like in
Yeah.
her mind, which is
But
fine. It's a trope.
still,
But
I
it's
can
fine.
understand where you get that Star Wars feel. She's wearing just kind of like these ragtag kind of clothes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get it.
It's not till the very end when you're like, oh, it is Supergirl. And, I would give this movie maybe a 7.5 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not awful. I liked it. I did like it. I would watch it again. If I tell you the amount of times I've watched that Superman movie, your head will explode. It is
Oh
potentially
God.
50 or more times I've watched that movie.
Oh my God.
I don't think I'm ever going to find a superhero movie as good as that one. For me, the only movie that rivals Superman as a comic book movie is Iron Man 1. Those are the only two that are like, for me, top tier superhero movies. This is not that. This is not that. It's just a fine sci-fi movie. It's a sci-fi movie more than a Supergirl movie. And it's fine. The look of Krypton is great. I love the way they didn't make it an ice planet. It has old school sci-fi planet vibes. I don't know if you've ever watched the George Reeves or Superman
long time
TV
ago.
show,
Yeah, yeah.
or even the Kirk Allen serials and all those, where you kind of see Krypton, but you don't, like the one episode during the origin, and that's kind of the end. You never see it again. But it almost reminds me of that, like big cloaks and like those gowns or whatever that like you
Yeah,
used to
yeah,
see alien races wear, and a more stone look.
yeah.
Like it had like pillars and that kind of stuff. It had that feel. I thought it was very cool. All of that was good. It's just there are moments in that movie where you're like, if you would have left this out, this movie gets better. So why put it in? Because you have to see while editing that this is the stuff that's
Yeah. It seems like James Gunn had too much involvement in it because, this guy Craig, he did a lot. I know. I think a lot of needle drops in Cruella. So
Yeah.
he's used to do that. I think the point I'm trying to make is I think James Gunn. I think he tries to infuse this attitude into his films, and it doesn't work. I think sometimes it just doesn't work. Like
This one didn't need it because of the story should have been darker, and so
yeah,
you don't want.
I think I don't know. Just like it just goes back to like I said, I don't want to go too off tangent here, but like Superman, his Superman, like saying like calling him he needs to be the new punk rock. If he's a new punk rock, he's not gonna tolerate someone calling him a bitch, especially his own cousin. And then I think the opening of this film that had there's all clips of it, the dog's peeing on Superman. Like you can't do that. Like I think it just messes up the whole tone. You know what I mean? Like I can't take Superman as this new punk rock. He can't be Robert Downey Jr. if you're letting him take this and not back himself up. And I think it just changes
Well,
the whole tone of the film. And I think the tone is just off. It's just off. And like you said, you just said it sounds like it feels like a Star Wars film.
I feel, yeah,
That's not good. That means you're trying to make what it's not. And
right.
that's just straight up, man. Like
That's like the biggest
it's too
issue with
much
the
of the
Supergirl.
trying to add an attitude. I don't know what it is. The tone.
Yeah.
You gotta just keep it in the lane that it's in. It is what it is. It's a Supergirl movie. Just keep it that tone. And
I also feel like, and I bump into this with a lot of the movies, when even with like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I've gone on record saying I didn't love, so I really wasn't expecting to like Superman as much as I did. But I don't think these movies land when the fate of Earth isn't involved. You know what I mean? Yeah. After a while, I'm kind of like, I don't care what happens to these aliens.
yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
Supergirl or Superman or the superhero is like a defender of Earth, and you have to save the humans and you have to save Earth. It feels more important. And to me, when I'm watching faceless, nameless aliens in a bar get beat up, you're like, well, who gives a shit? These aren't,
It's just saying it.
you know what I mean? Like, who gives a shit if you're just fighting aliens and you're like, I got to save these aliens? It's like, it means less. In
Yeah,
Star Wars,
I,
it
thi-
works. In this,
I,
it doesn't. And it's like, but they're two different types of movies. And
yeah,
then
exactly. And I
that's
think
the thing.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing is, besides you basically kind of recommending it to some folks who are in
Watch
Supergirl.
it. I would
Yeah,
watch it.
I,
It's not
I,
it's
I,
not unentertaining. It's just
yeah, it's not as good as we hoped it would be.
yeah.
I think this movie and a lot of movies is it's hard to do things all by yourself. All right, PJ, and I know this too. Like it sounds like Craig Gillespie and or James Gunn specifically. You need someone to write with. George Lucas. I think the reasons why I know he goes, Mike, he did the trilogy, blah blah, and I get all that. But the prequels, I should say, he should
He
have
needed
sat.
someone.
He needed
Yeah.
someone to sit down with. And you can't take like this ego hit. Like there's no shame in it. Like you sit down, you break it down. I think someone would be like, let's say you work with them, like, yo, bro, let's cut this out. We don't need it. Or let's put a little bit of
Yeah.
this in there. We don't need, I think when you have no one there to kind of keep you, on your toes,
Mm.
that's when you start to overdo things. It's like a buffet when you put everything like, oh, I'm gonna have Chinese food, I'm gonna have grilled chicken, I'm gonna have sushi, and then you get back to and you go, oh my god, my stomach hurts. The aftermath, we're like,
You know,
less
you think
more.
about what Marvel did, and you have someone like a Kevin Feige who oversees everything, but Kevin Feige never made any of the Marvel
No,
movies. He just oversaw them and made sure that the narrative continues through. And
that's it.
we always talk about, oh, they have that Marvel feel. It's a Marvel movie because they all kind of feel the
Yep.
same, but kind of, the difference there is I don't think the Marvel movies have any individuality. I think they're all too
Yeah,
cookie cutter.
right.
You know,
But it
look,
works.
none of
But it
these
but it
it
works, and they had
worked.
a
Well, it worked for
plan.
the first 2 or 3
Yeah,
phases.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I would say this with all honesty, I think Supergirl is better than pretty much most of the Marvel movies that came out in like phase
That
3 and
sounds fair
4.
to say. That sounds fair.
Yeah, I mean that's
Like I
those
said, he's a
some of these
legitimate
Marvel movies have,
director, the guy. So
yeah.
I think it's just a
Some of
lot of
these Marvel movies have been awful the last couple of phases.
mhm.
The TV shows have been awful. So Supergirl's better than a lot of that. But when you get spoiled by having so many good movies and then you see one that's not as good, you can't help but compare. I think this is a good movie. I enjoyed watching it each time. For me, it didn't feel long. There were parts that dragged. They didn't feel completely longed out. There's a lot of highlights in the movie. There are also a lot of lowlights in the movie. I would say, like I said, 7.5. It's totally worth. If you're an AMC A-lister, right? You got
Yeah,
a Stubbs membership and you have 3 or 4 free tickets anyway a week. You're not gonna be upset that you used a free ticket on it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's fine. If I did pay and didn't use my AMC Stubbs list, I would also be fine. Like I didn't leave this movie miserable. The popcorn buckets are great. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Like the other issue with this movie is you're building out a new universe for the DC universe, And you want to start with Superman? That's great. That makes sense. Why is our next one Supergirl? Don't get me wrong. I love all the Superman family characters, but you're building out a universe. You got to pick a good one for your second one. How is it not Batman? How is it not Wonder Woman? How is it not a big name character to continue on
It's
your
I
universe?
I think it's just a lot of like, James Gunn has, obviously his vision is not
Yeah.
panning out, and it's look, hey, numbers. At the end of the day, money talks. If the money doesn't not there, they're not going to keep this universe popping off.
And the Snyder, here's the problem too. The Snyder stuff left such a bad taste in everyone's mouth because most of those films are not good. So it hurts James Gunn going in because people already don't care, you
I
know?
think I think keeping it real is he didn't do a good job rebooting this whole thing because he didn't
I
really reboot. He kept Peacemaker. He kept all these different things. He really should have set the clock back to zero. And you can't kind of
You can't have it both ways. I think Peacemaker is a great television show.
yeah. And it was also time to close it and start new.
Yeah.
So
I think they didn't want to lose what was working because they said, well, this is working. We got to have a draw. So Peacemaker is working. Let's keep that, which is fine. It didn't, because that was so separate from everything anyway. You don't really notice it. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know.
but
I guess for me, if you're gonna hit the restart, you gotta do it because then
uh,
there's too much
I
conflicting.
think he
Mhm.
gave us the best Superman movie we've ever seen. I truly believe that. I know you don't, but if you're a
Definitely not.
comic book fan,
Definitely.
if you're into the comic books, he
But
gave
I
us
don't
the
want to
best
get because
Superman
I
we've
want to.
seen. But
But
yeah, but to follow it up with this is a mistake. Not
right.
even though this isn't a bad movie, you're starting over. You start with Superman, love it or hate it. That makes sense to start over with Superman.
Hmm.
Then you have to do Batman. You have to do Wonder Woman. You have to do Green Lantern. You don't go to Supergirl because no one's going to care and you're going to tank your momentum. That first Superman movie does have momentum, whether you love it or not. It has some behind it, it has something behind it, more than Supergirl is going to continue. And you have a Batman movie coming out that no one's going to care about because you've already said Robert Pattinson isn't your Batman, but you're coming out with the movie. So no one's going to care about it because you know there's no future for this next Batman movie. That's going to tank. You're doing a Clayface movie set in your universe, but you don't have a Batman to put in it. And that Clayface movie looks like it might be a good body horror movie. But you have a Batman villain having a movie because you can't have Batman in it because you haven't cast him yet. No one's going to care. And now you're going to have 3 movies in a row that are box office letdowns. You're going to have a Green Lantern TV show that everyone is shitting on because you put him in a brown suit instead of a green suit. Doesn't make any sense. You've set yourself up for failure. And I don't think they're going to get rid of James Gunn. I really don't. I think they're going to give him time. But what'll happen is Paramount's going to get fed up with it much quicker than Warner Brothers would.
Yeah.
If he sold Warner Brothers on his timeline, and maybe he did, and he goes, look, we know it's going to be a slow start, but you got to let us get to that, that moment where it blows up. Maybe Warner Brothers bought into that timeline. Paramount just spent some $1 billion to buy this company. They're not going to be so, eager to wait for it to blow up because they need to recoup that money that they just spent.
Yeah.
And that's when James Gunn's going to get into trouble.
Yeah. No, I agree with all of that. And before we move on, I'll say this one last statement.
Yeah.
I don't think someone needs to be an expert in a comic book to enjoy a movie. I never read one Harry Potter book, but I enjoy those movies. So I don't think it equates that you don't like because you don't understand. I hate that shit. People like, oh,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
you don't like the band Tool because you don't stand time signatures. Sometimes something just pleasing to your ear, or your eye, and that is it. Should be more difficult than that. If you're doing that, that means you're overanalyzing or you're reaching or there's confirmation
No,
bias.
I'm not
Always
quite
talking about.
saying that. I'm just saying there are
So
nuances that get missed that
right.
others pick up on that make people like it. Not that you don't understand it. You're right. From a moviegoer standpoint, you should be able to go in and enjoy it on its own. I think that movie was made in a way to appease a certain audience. I think that's how that movie was made. I
Yeah.
really do. And that's not the right way to do it. I'm not disagreeing with that. I just think that's how he did it. The Harry Potter thing, I know a lot of people that love the books that don't like those movies because they
Yeah.
change,
Well, that's
I
a whole
think
other episode.
that's a whole other
Those are
thing. But yeah,
500
I think
page
that's
books
sort
you have to
of
fit into
it's
a.
almost like an opposite. I think it's almost like the opposite of that with the Superman movie. But I don't know that this is gonna go the way James Gunn thinks. I do think he's gonna get some struggles when Paramount takes over because they're not gonna buy into his long-term vision if it doesn't make them money right away because they just spend so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen with James Gunn. Hopefully he turns it around with the next one. Maybe everyone's going to get surprised with the Lanterns TV show and it's going to buy some goodwill. I don't think so, but maybe that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. But moving right along, I want to talk about the Netflix film called Swapped. And the reason I just want to talk about it is just kind of like K-pop Demon Hunter, they became a huge hit. And this movie didn't become as huge as that, obviously, but I'm just baffled how everything was actually. So I looked it up. It was in select theaters for a short amount of time. I just don't understand how they make money from this stuff. I don't get it. Like
I don't
K-pop
either.
theaters didn't. It's not like they have a trailer out that says like K-pop Demon Hunter is like coming on Netflix. You might get that thing on Netflix where it pops up like
Yeah.
things coming, blah blah blah. But that's about it. So I'm just kind of baffled. The reason I'm reviewing, I'm just baffled that I feel like a movie like this would have probably made decent money, probably made its money back.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. It had 38 million views its first week, so it did well, I guess, in terms of their
You're right. I don't understand how that translates
logistical.
into money. If I already paid for Netflix, you didn't
I have
get
no
money from it. Is anyone signing up for Netflix to watch this?
exactly. So I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't get how it works either.
But I just want to talk about the movie because I kind of want to compare it for some reason to Zootopia 2, because
Okay.
the criticism with Swap is like, oh, it's like poppers that just came out, or it's just kind of more of the same that we have. And I'm like, okay, but let me tell you more about it. So it's about these are like mystical animals but they're
Right.
basically it's an otter named Ollie, which is voiced by Michael B. Jordan.
I
And
hate that guy. Okay.
wow, okay. Then we have and there's like this kind of like tropical bird who's voiced by
Okay.
Juno Temple. Her name is Ivy, and they
I don't know
swap.
who that is.
You've seen her in film. She's a
Okay.
blonde young. Anyway, they swap bodies. You could swap. You become different creatures. So like he could become the magical bird. She could become the otter by touching this magical pod.
Okay.
And basically, what happens in this fantasy type forest, there's like a fire wolf, and he sets the whole place ablaze. And like there's like these giant kind of beings. Kind of reminds me of
Right.
Avatar. There's like this magical trees that is one that
No.
supplies these pods that allow you to swap into
Right.
different beings. Basically, the movie's all about empathy. So like
Okay.
this giant tree creature allows the animals to be in different bodies or change their physical body to be a
Right.
creature to just have empathy. Like, oh wow, it must be tough being a fish. You're just stuck in water, or you're just stuck. You're a bird. But you can't.
Right.
You really depend on others to like crack your nuts open to eat. Blah 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 blah. So
Right.
anyway, what happens is a misunderstanding. After this wolf lights the whole place on fire, he goes missing. That wolf, and our main characters. There's a misunderstanding where like these otters, they keep all their food supply to themselves, and our main character teaches a bird how to. Oh, this is how you crack open a nut. Blah blah blah. Anyway, the bird teaches her friends, and now the birds take over their food supply. So now it's like this whole rivalry. And anyway, these two touch a magical pod where they swap bodies. Now she's an
Okay.
otter and he's a bird, and they have to find another pod to get back to normal. But along the way, they meet the fire wolf. Blah 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 blah. It's a kid movie, but
Yeah.
like I said, it's a fine movie. I feel like a 7 out of 10, all that kind of stuff.
All right.
But I just want to talk about the director because this is the same guy who directed Tangled. Okay,
Oh, okay.
and he worked for Disney basically as a story artist. This is
Yeah.
the only second movie he's ever directed, but like he did Bolt, which is a great movie that no one talks
That
about.
is a great movie. I like that movie.
Wreck-It Ralph, Big Hero 6, worked on Frozen. So the guy has a pretty good resume as a story artist, whatever he did.
Right. Right.
So, and the reason I want to talk about Zootopia 2 is Zootopia 2 felt kind of like I haven't seen the new Toy Story, but it felt so commercial when I was watching Zootopia 2. It was fine, but it felt so forced and
It
rushed.
felt like the first one did so good, we had to have another one.
Yeah, and it felt so rushed.
Yeah.
Zootopia 2. Anyway, with this one, beautiful animation. I don't know how Netflix affords all this, but they have beautiful animation. But yeah, look, it's a solid movie. I don't think it's going to be a classic. You're going to, sound like a Beauty
Probably
and the Beast
not,
type
but
of
that's
thing.
fair. Yeah.
But the reason, like I said, I brought it up is I am just baffled. And it's by Skydance. Skydance is basically, I think, a part of Paramount, or it's the new
Yeah.
studio
I think
that's
it's
kind of,
Paramount Skydance is like,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's another reason why,
Paramount
because like,
Skydance, Warner Brothers
you're
pretty
going to
soon. They
start,
just keep adding names.
like we're always, at one, right, there's a point in time you never talked about Pixar, right? And now
Yeah.
you always talk about Pixar, right? So I think Skydance is going to be in our vocabulary going forward for the next couple of decades now, because you could kind of slowly see them building up. I can't think of other movies they did recently, but they're building up their resume. So we're gonna be seeing Skydance a lot more often.
Well, that's
But
good. I
yeah,
mean, if their animation style is good and the movies are good,
yeah,
you know me, I'm a sucker for
yeah.
animation. So
But yeah, just with that movie, Swap, I would definitely recommend it. Look, it's on Netflix. You have it. Why would you not watch it? If it's a date,
yeah, exactly.
you and your wife want to watch something like, hey, let's pop on an animated film. Totally recommend it. If you have kids, they're gonna definitely love it. It's cute. There's no music or anything
Yeah.
like that. And one of the standouts is Tracy Morgan's in it. He does one of the voices.
He's great.
Yeah, he's basically, spoiler alert, he's like your villain. But he's good. Yeah, there's a little twist in it. I was like, oh, you kind of saw it coming for a little kid. You'd be like, oh my gosh. But I was laughing. I'm like, oh, this
There were a
motherfucker.
couple of big name people I think that were in this movie, right? Like Michael B. Jordan, I know was in it. Like you
Juno
said,
Temple and him, and yeah, they had a good cast. It's good. Yeah, it's fine. It kind of reminds, like I said, the best way to explain it's like Avatar meets body swapping films.
right?
I can't think of ramble off my head.
Like a Freaky Friday kind of thing.
Yes, there you go. A lot of empathy, so all that kind of stuff. So, but like I said, I'm just baffled how Netflix makes money off this stuff.
I don't get the business model.
Yeah,
I really.
but clearly they know.
They know.
We don't know, but
Well, because they're making a bunch of money off of Stranger Things, but I don't understand. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. The only thing I could think of is like the idea is people sign up and pay to watch these things and then they stick around after it is the only, but I mean, everyone already who doesn't have a Netflix subscription?
I know. Yeah,
You know what I mean? So I don't understand how it works.
wild. But PJ, to kind of close the show with Masters of the Universe, I want to talk
Yes.
a little bit about the director of this film because I think it's interesting. This is from IMDb, and here we go. So the director is Travis Andrew Knight. Okay, he's a
Yep.
filmmaker, animator, and former
Mhm.
rapper. So that was cool. He's the son of the co-owner of co-founder. Excuse me. He's the son of the Nike co-founder Phil Knight. It's interesting. Anyway, he's done which I thought was a good movie, Kubo and the Two Strings. That was a pretty cool
Yeah.
movie. He has a new movie coming out called Wildwood. He did Bumblebee. That's the
He did Bumblebee,
Transformers.
which is one of the better Transformer live
Yeah,
action
he
movies.
did Box Trolls. I never heard of Missing Link. He did Paranorman. I remember when that movie came out
Yeah.
years ago. So
He was an animator on, I don't know if you remember this show, but he was an animator on the PJs.
yes, I wrote that in one of my notes too. So talented guy. I just thought it was very
Talented
interesting.
guy.
Very interesting background between
Yeah.
who his dad is, and he's clearly talented and everything. So Masters of the Universe, and kind of like Supergirl, didn't really do well in the box office.
Didn't
And-
do well in the box
And
office.
from what I heard, it's actually a better film. It's actually a very good film,
I am going to
better
go on
than
record and say
Supergirl.
this has been my favorite film of the year so far.
right? I've heard about that, and great cast.
Yeah.
You have obviously Jared Leto as Skeletor. Then you have
Yep.
Alison Brie, who I think is one of the most talented female actors that we have, who doesn't really get enough
We get zero credit for how good she is.
or roles. She's funny.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
talented. She can do anything. She's dramatic, comedy,
Mhm.
a lot of different stuff, and she's wonderful. And she does a voice in the movie. Remember the Lego movie? Everything is awesome, but she plays like
Yeah.
I think like a unicorn or something. But her character hilarious in that movie. But yeah, she's very talented, super talented.
You got Idris Elba in this movie.
Wow, right.
Idris Elba is man at
So-
arms. I mean, he's one of the
Right.
best actors in a generation.
Yeah.
That guy, I
So,
think.
so anyway, we have a good director, great cast, right? Whatever you feel about Jared Leto, he is a good actor. I think he does better. I think he's better in supporting roles. I don't like him as lead roles.
Agree.
He's gotten
100% agree.
It gets a little weird
Yeah.
as behind the scenes, or even sometimes I'm like, because I love the movie Blade Runner 2040. That movie's awesome. He's the worst part of that movie. If he
Yeah.
wasn't in it, then someone else probably would have done better. But anyway, PJ, kind of just give us a quick rundown.
Yeah.
He-Man.
Real quick on this one.
Mhm.
Look, I grew up watching He-Man, watching the original ones, watching the 2000 and whatever it was reboot, watching the Kevin Smith Revolution Revelations. I watched the CG cartoon one that was on Netflix, watched all that stuff. I like the character of He-Man, so when you tell me you're going to give me a He-Man movie, I was always going to go. When I first saw the trailers for this movie, I hated them. I was like, this movie
That's-
looks like
PJ,
a piece of shit.
PJ, it's so funny how you and we were destined to be together, bro. Because I wrote on here trailers I thought was a big miss for this, and I apologize for interrupting you, but I think one of the things I didn't like about the trailers was you needed more Skeletor. You didn't have. I know they want to keep it I get all that for 100%, but you needed at least
But like, it's
one.
Skeletor. You got to sell the movie with Skeletor.
Exactly. Especially with all the memes, he can almost he's bigger than He-Man now. The memes, you gotta have that, because I know the movie's almost more of a comedy than it is.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway,
yeah, I thought the
continue. But the
trailers
trailers
made me look
were
like a
a
piece of shit.
miss, were a huge miss.
Awful.
Huge miss.
And I'm like, I'm gonna see it because I love the idea of He-Man, but these trailers make this movie look like the worst. The worst. Actually, a buddy of mine is a huge He-Man fan, and he went in thinking he was gonna love it because he loved the trailers, and I thought and thinking I was gonna hate it because I hated the trailers. And by the time I saw the movie, I loved the movie and he hated it. But there you go.
He probably wanted a different tone, but that's
He wanted exactly what he wanted, a different tone. He said it should have been more serious. This
you
movie
probably
is a
wanted
total
like a
goof.
You probably wanted like a Conan the Barbarian
Yeah.
kind of vibe.
And this movie, total goof. It's from
Is it like
beginning
a
to end.
Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok kind of vibe?
In a way, I think it's not quite as much of a goof as that. But I mean, look, this movie starts off, you meet He-Man as a little kid, and he kind of shitty. He's not, they make it a point to show that he's not like a warrior type kid. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to fight. He's just not that guy. And you see King Randor, his father, is always, they make it seem like he's always disappointed that his son is not going to be a warrior or whatever. And so now Skeletor attacks the castle, and the first thing they do is like, well, we got to get the Sword of Power and little stupid He-Man out of here because Prince Adam he's just a weak little bitch.
Yeah.
And they send him away to Earth, and then he loses the sword, and he grows up on Earth, and then eventually he spends all his time looking for the sword so he can go home. And I'm going to do this real quick. Eventually he finds the sword, and once he raises the sword, it's like a beacon, and everyone from Eternia is able to find him, and they bring him back to Eternia, and then we just fight bad guys. And by the power of Grayskull, I have the power, and He-Man gets big, and we fight bad guys, and the good guys win. Look, that's the plot. I can't make it. It sounds like I'm rushing through it. It's paper thin, but it's fun as shit. It's fun. The jokes land. They have so many jokes about like Fisto and Ram Man in there that you're like, if you're a real like He-Man, I guess, enthusiast, maybe you feel bad that these characters are getting poked fun at. I thought it was hysterical. I thought the jokes are great. They all land. I thought the action scenes were fine. He looks like He-Man. Skeletor is great. Look, if you just want to go to a movie and have a fun time at the movie, I think He-Man's the movie for you. Like it's just a ball. I laughed. I was brought into the action. The characters look like they stepped right out of the cartoon onto the screen. If you're looking for a serious take on He-Man, or you're looking for this to have any sort of meaning, this is like zero of that. This is not what that movie is.
Yeah.
This is a comedy. This is kind of poking a little bit of fun at He-Man, but still being true to the characters. They do stuff, like you said, the memes. They take some stuff that's straight from the memes, like the laughing, the laughing meme and everything. They put that whole thing in the movie where they're laughing. They poke fun at the fact that like Prince Adam and He-Man look exactly the same, but somehow this guy thinks he has a secret identity. Like you've seen the cartoons, all they do is put him in a loincloth instead of the pink shirt, and it's the same.
Yeah.
Everything else is the same. They even make fun of that in the movie. They're like, does this guy really think we don't know he's He-Man? Like they poke fun at all that, but it's a good time. It's a good time. I really enjoyed it.
I was sure. How long was it?
I want to say it was like a 2-ish hour movie, maybe a little more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
2 hours and 20 minutes, maybe something like that.
So I'm trying to think. I think what hurt the film was, number one, the trailers were, I agree, were horrendous.
Big miss.
And
horrendous.
I don't know if you have like a different leading man play He-Man would make a difference. I'm not sure about that. Only if you have like The Rock.
I thought he was fine. I mean, he looks like He-Man.
I don't think that was the issue. I do think it's coming. I think another reason why Supergirl didn't do as well is, I think without a doubt, there's a little bit superhero fatigue, without a doubt. I think that, I think people are just getting burnt out, and I think they see He-Man, they just feel it's like it's
more of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part, unfortunately.
And it's a franchise that who gives a shit already, unless you like grew up with He-Man. Does anyone care?
Yeah, as I say, I was never into He-Man. I wanted to see, but those trailers told me, it's not worth seeing it.
No, the trailers don't do any justice.
Now when it goes to, and look, we always talk about this all the time, streaming has changed a lot, clearly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. I don't want to keep comparing it to like Ragnarok, or I'm trying to, I'm getting this feel in my mind. I'm like, I got it. It seems like they wanted to do like the Schwarzenegger, like Arnold was really good at making action films that had like this zip to it, this chemistry in it, like something like maybe not Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer. That movie, that movie's not that good, but that movie had. I like it. It's fine. It's more comedic, right? And they probably made him want to make a better version of that, where you have, guy has a lot of charisma, and then there's this mystical stuff. And I think Hollywood doesn't even know how to do mystical or like fantasy well anymore. Besides like a Harry Potter type thing, they don't know how to.
Yeah, outside like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, you got
type. Fantasy stuff. They don't know how to do it anymore. Unless they goof on it, they don't know how to pull it off.
It's kind of like. Did you watch was it Chris Pine, I think, was in the Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, I heard that was actually good. Yeah.
It's almost a vibe like that, where it's in a fantasy world, but it's also a goof, and it's also funny. It's not meant to be super serious. I think the problem is people didn't want this He-Man to feel like a goof. And I think some hardcore He-Man people maybe saw this and felt like their character was being made fun of.
Yeah.
And so it gets you to that point where if that's how you feel, then maybe you don't like this movie. And if you're that connected to He-Man, my whole thing is I watched the cartoons. I loved the cartoons growing up, but I don't have any real affinity to these characters. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a guy in a loincloth with a sword. How serious am I going to take it?
And look, let's just be honest. It wasn't really for me, it wasn't, I didn't like it as a kid. I thought it was boring. It was really just a design. Like a lot of those 80s shows was to sell toys, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually,
Watch the toys that made us, the He-Man
that's a great
episode. You'll
episode
get a
too.
real,
And
it's a great episode. And you're right. And this movie kind of feels that way, where it's designed to sell the toys. When I tell you the villains and stuff look like they stepped right out of the toy line, they do. It looks perfect. The movie kind of feels like it was designed to sell the toys. But that doesn't bother me because that's why the cartoon existed. Like you just said, I think this movie is being unfairly treated. In terms of like entertainment, this movie is like a 9. In terms of it being a good movie, it's like a 7.
I think from what I've heard, none of the reviews for Massive was bad. Everything was actually was recommended. It just did do well in the box office. I contribute that to poor trailers, superhero fatigue. I know it's not technically superhero. You get what I'm saying?
I think the tone, once it got out what the tone was, I think that turned people off. I think that was a big thing.
Yeah, and I think
entertainment wise, this movie for me, I'm not even kidding. I'm not talking about the quality of the film or anything like that. I'm just talking about entertaining. It's like a 9 out of 10. If you want to talk about like the quality of the movie and the cinematography and all that other stuff, you're like, again, maybe it's probably like a 7.5, 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe even a 7, but you combine those two averages in terms of an actual film and entertainment quality. Maybe it comes out to like an 8 overall, just because of how entertaining I thought it was.
Yeah.
But Amazon claims they're going to give us more of this, even though it didn't make any money. We'll see. This movie is very watchable.
Right.
And it's very, very, very.
Did you give it a rating out of 10 yet? You said.
I said the entertainment factor is a 9. The actual movie making process and filmmaking process is probably like a 7. You average that together and it's like an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The entertainment factor in this movie is high. The jokes land. The designs land, and it makes you go, oh shit, that's Fisto. Oh shit, that's Mechanic. The plot's paper thin, but how much could it not be? It's He-Man. What is so fucking deep about He-Man that you need to have? But there is no plot to this. Like a child could write the plot to this.
I think as we're wrapping things up, I think with this, PJ, I just came to my mind. I think the big problem with Hollywood today is all of our action movies became comedies, and then people are looking for something and they're not getting that. Like, the early 2000s, like Spider-Man and the X-Men, those were action films first.
Yes.
And there was some comedic moments in it. Now it's the reverse. All of your comic movies are comedies with some action moments. And I think people are looking for straight action and they can't get it. Like, we go to, people don't want to see Mission Impossible. It's too old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't get it. The Fast and the Furious, that's become a comedy. You went from guys illegal street racing to now, I don't know, driving off ravines, and they're basically superhumans now, So I think that's a big problem with Hollywood right now. They don't know how to just do a straight up action like a Point Break or a John Wick, even though those last 2 installments are pretty bad, at least there was just the thread was just action.
Yeah.
They don't know how to,
like speed.
Yes, exactly. Or in our comedies, we don't have any comedies that are just straight comedies. They have to have some kind of skin of a superhero to be a comedy.
Well, when they try to give us a straight comedy, it fails in execution.
They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, folks, thanks for sticking around for this triple header.
I would say all 3 movies that we spoke about today are worth watching, though.
Yeah. They're not. None of these seem unwatchable. I think a lot of it is just people jump on the bandwagon of hate, and it seems like Massive Universe is probably the best out of these 3.
I think out of these, I didn't see the Netflix one, but out of Supergirl and He-Man that I did see, Masters of the Universe is definitely the better of the 2.
So, but yeah, folks, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Same time, same table.
Have a good
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.